If you were stranded on another planet and hunted down by an army of mutant cockroaches, what would you do? This is what humanity's future will look like if not enough people donate to Team Seas. And that's why I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the killer cockroaches in Terraformers. This whole planet is doomed. It's the year 2597, and the world has become too populated to support the human race. But this couple here has a much bigger problem. Shokichi and his girlfriend are wanted for murder, and the police are hunting them down. They run through the crowded streets to escape, but they get cornered in, and the cops finally surround them. The man knows he'll be executed, but that's when he looks up and is surprised to see this luxury car come flying down into the street. The door swings open as this rich man steps out and walks towards the couple. He has a special plan for them, and these criminals are about to get a punishment worse than death. The rich man takes them to his lab where he offers them a deal. Instead of being executed for their crimes, they can go to Mars and help exterminate cockroaches. The insects were sent there to terraform the planet hundreds of years ago, but now that it's ready to be colonized, the bugs need to be wiped out. It's an extremely dangerous mission, but the man promises that all the charges will be dropped if they complete the job. Shokichi doesn't trust what he's hearing, but he knows it's their only chance to live and takes the deal. 2 years later, the couple is sent to Mars along with 13 other people, and they're all dressed in Stormtrooper hand-me-downs. The girl goes to talk with one of them, but that's when she finds out that nearly all the crew members are some of the worst criminals on Earth. Among them is a corrupt ex-cop, 2 Yakuza gangsters, a serial killer, a human trafficker, and a professional terrorist. Suddenly, the captain walks into the bridge and orders everyone to their seats as they begin to enter the Martian atmosphere. The group is amazed to find that the surface of Mars is covered in plant life, completely terraformed into an Earth-like climate. The captain launches missiles full of insecticide to kill the cockroaches, and they start spraying toxic gas to clear the area. But they have no idea that the insects they're looking for are more dangerous than they could imagine. Okay, if I had a choice between being sent to the electric chair or being sent to Mars, it's a no-brainer. But Shokichi here should have trusted his instincts, because there are tons of signs that they were being taken advantage of. First of all, poor and desperate losers being hand-selected for an important mission is pretty much how every Asian death game starts. So whenever you're being offered the deal of a lifetime, the first question you should ask yourself is why it's happening to you. Nobody would hire criminals to do a job unless that job itself is a crime. These people have no experience killing bugs or flying rockets, and that's only scratching the surface of the problem. Secondly, a mission like this should have international attention and would be on every single news channel around the world. In comparison, the Apollo 11 mission where Neil Armstrong landed on the moon was watched by 650 million people in 1969, and that was when only 1 in 10 households even had a TV. This event here should be considered the biggest event in the history of mankind, because this planet is humanity's last hope for survival, and yet they're sending dangerous criminals in secret. It's suspicious as hell, and that's not even mentioning how much this mission would cost. Sending a rocket into orbit is insanely expensive, costing about $10,000 for 1 pound of material. So a rocket this size is a massive investment. Now, even if this guy is a trillionaire, Mars missions can only be done once every 2 years, when the planetary orbits are close enough for space travel. If you have to wait that long for a Mars mission, these are not the kinds of people you would waste that opportunity on, and it can only mean there's something he's not telling us. Now, the single most important thing to notice here is that exterminating an entire planet of bugs can't be done by a small group of people like this. It doesn't matter if they're criminals or battle-tested Starship Troopers. There's just way too much surface area on this planet for this to be practical, and considering that they only get their freedom if they complete the job, accepting this deal was extremely short-sighted. The lifespan of a cockroach is about 30 weeks, but the most horrifying fact of all is that a female roach can produce 300 offspring before it dies. If half of those babies are female and each of them produces 300 of their own cockroach babies, then in less than 1 year, you'll have over 45,000 of them. In just 2 generations, you'll have nearly 70 million insects crawling through the walls of your house. That's in only 24 months, and these things have been living on Mars for 500 years. This is the most f***ing nightmare planet you could possibly think of, and these people are disposable with no experience killing bugs or flying rockets. So if I were in this situation, I would rather take my chances on Earth and go back on the run. We're already in control of our own ship, so these criminals might be able to turn around and head back. Once they discover the horrors waiting for them here, they'll wish they had. And there's one surefire way they can escape this planet undetected. NordVPN provides a private network and acts like a meat shield for your internet that keeps your computer and information safe from hackers or nosy internet service providers. The best part is, it's the fastest VPN on the market that's super easy to use with minimal time needed to set up. All you have to do is press a button and you're protected, and you can instantly change your location to over 5,000 different servers worldwide while keeping yourself anonymous. No command line, no overly complicated options. With one simple click, you can access region-locked content across streaming services, so you can watch Japanese death games to your heart's content, buy games that are blocked in your country and for a cheaper price, while protecting up to 6 different devices on every major platform, including Android TVs.
Guys, I've been using NordVPN, and I highly recommend you look into protecting yourself digitally. Maybe it's my paranoia, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
So go to nordvpn.com/cinemasummary and use my code CinemaSummary to get a 2-year plan with a huge discount plus 1 month free. Thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And an extra thank you for allowing me to include the Team C's fundraiser below. While the crew leaves to scout the planet, the captain sends out a drone. As it flies across the terrain, he notices an abandoned spaceship on the horizon that looks identical to his own. The rich man tells them that this was once a research ship, but the crew didn't survive. He brags that if this mission is successful, Japan will have access to a secret technology that will make them a leading superpower. He won't say what it is, and the captain knows he's hiding something. The crew splits into pairs and head outside to inspect the landscape, but when they look around in the moss, they're surprised that they can't find cockroaches anywhere. Thinking the pesticides might not have worked, they continue walking further out, but when they turn the corner, they see something horrifying. In front of them are 3 creatures, and they're absolutely shredded. The man can't believe what he's seeing and pulls his partner into hiding before they're spotted, but they're not the only ones who have found something. Nearby, one of the creatures turns around to find Shokichi and his girlfriend staring in confusion. They have no idea what this thing could be, but that's when the alien starts walking towards them. Trying to appear friendly, the man waves hello, but that was his biggest mistake. The creature darts behind him and snaps the woman's neck in a single move. It was too fast for anyone to react, and the girl drops to the ground dead. The man runs over to his girlfriend and turns to ask why it killed her, but the creature ignores him, running away faster than anything he's ever seen in his life. Moments later, these crewmates approach him looking terrified, saying that others are being attacked by the aliens and it's too dangerous to stay out here. Agreeing, they all go back to the ship where Shokichi leaves his friend's body in the morgue. That's 2 crewmates down and 13 more to go. Aboard the ship, he confronts the captain, demanding to know what killed his girlfriend. But this crewmate tells them those creatures they saw are the cockroaches. The cosmic radiation sped up their evolution, and they became stronger and faster than any creature on Earth. It's upsetting news, but that's when a hologram of the rich man appears in the room, and he's finally going to tell them the horrifying truth about their mission. Okay, this is not what we signed up for. The whole time, this guy let them think they were just here to spray some pesticide and go home. But the truth is so much worse. Now, these criminals could have seen this disaster coming much earlier if they understood what it actually takes to terraform a planet, because there were already telltale signs that it was being done the wrong way. The conditions on Mars as we know it are brutal. It has an average temperature of minus 50 degrees Celsius, there's virtually no atmosphere, and since the planet doesn't even have a magnetic field, the cosmic radiation from the sun would be extremely harmful to any life. To terraform this place, the first thing you need to do is start creating greenhouse gases, which raises the surface temperature and builds atmospheric pressure. Now, a famous James Bond villain once suggested we should nuke the poles of the planet to melt its frozen ice caps. This would release CO2 to help kickstart an atmosphere, but the sad truth is that it wouldn't work. There isn't enough carbon dioxide on Mars to make enough atmospheric pressure, and it means we have to bring our own resources to get the job done. One of the best strategies we have is to use algae, because it can survive in an environment without oxygen, which is why there's moss all over the planet. This is called cyanobacteria, which is an organism that uses photosynthesis to feed itself and converts the carbon dioxide into oxygen. It's the same type of bacteria that started the formations of life on planet Earth, so this isn't a terrible idea. Now, at this point, you might be wondering where the cockroaches come in, because on its surface, it seems completely ridiculous. But there's actual science behind this idea too. The first animal to be sent into space was not a human, a chimpanzee, or even a dog. It was a fruit fly. In 1947, scientists wondered if exposure to cosmic radiation would harm future astronauts. So the US military launched a bunch of rockets into space and loaded them with fruit flies. Now, the reason they chose a fruit fly is going to shock you, because genetically, they have way more in common with humans than you would believe. Around 75% of all the disease-causing genes in humans have matching pairs in the DNA of a fruit fly, which is insane. This one crazy fact allowed scientists to get a better idea if space travel had any negative effects. And when they returned to Earth, the scientists found that the flies were completely unharmed. This is why these cockroaches are here. But this time, the cosmic rays mutated their genes and sped up their evolution by millions of years. The biggest problem with their strategy is that cockroaches have much less in common with us than flies, and they don't even help terraform the environment. If it was up to me, I would have considered setting termites instead because they produce more methane than anything else on Earth. A single termite produces half a microgram of methane per day, but when this is multiplied by the trillions, their global methane emissions would produce a huge amount of greenhouse gases to help warm the planet and contribute to creating an atmosphere. Their food sources might be a problem, but if they could be genetically modified to feed off of the cellulose of the moss and algae, then their existence on the planet would actually help sustain life-creating conditions instead of just turning into giant cavemen. That's when the rich man gives them terrifying news, revealing that all the crew members had insect DNA injected into their bodies, and this will be their only weapon to kill the cockroaches. They're all completely shocked, but before they can ask any questions, the hologram disappears. The captain pulls out a vial from his belt, explaining that they can transform into a human-bug hybrid using these serums, and each of them have a unique superpower from the bugs they've been spliced with. But there's a catch. The transformation only lasts a few minutes, and if they inject themselves with too much at once, they will die. This woman complains that the mission is too dangerous and they should turn back. But that's when the ship's radar detects something outside. A massive cockroach slowly approaches through the dust, and the crew is nervous. The terrorist here walks up and mocks the others for being scared, explaining that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they exterminate the roaches, they'll all get a huge reward, and it's better than going back to prison. He walks away to the exit hatch to face the insect, but the man is about to find out that he is no match for these cockroaches. Outside the ship, he stands his ground as the cockroach approaches, and the criminal quickly injects himself with the serum. Suddenly, his body begins to transform as his skin turns into a shield of chitin, with antennas growing out of his head. This man's DNA has been mixed with the bombardier beetle, which can excrete highly potent toxins as a defense mechanism, but on a human scale, it gives him the ability to shoot these chemicals out like a flamethrower. Testing his powers, he holds his hands up to the insect and a plume comes out, setting the cockroach on fire. It looks like it's working, but to his surprise, the alien recovers. Nervous, the man pulls out his knife to defend himself, but before he can strike, the insect shoves his hand straight through his body, killing him. That's 3 crewmates down and 12 more to go. Okay, these crewmates are screwed. This mutant cockroach appears to have no weaknesses at all, and that's terrifying no matter how stupid he looks. This guy had the ability of a bombardier beetle, which has one of the most potent chemicals in the insect kingdom, creating a reaction that's so violent, it literally makes boiling corrosive liquid shoot out of its asshole. That's got to be the best party trick I've ever seen. But if we can be killed this easily, even with our superpowers, then we need to escape as fast as possible and take our chances back on Earth. Now, this next point is going to freak you out, because scientists have recently discovered that cockroaches are starting to evolve faster than ever before. But some cockroaches are already developing cross-resistance to a wide range of pesticides. This means that from birth, their offspring become immune to toxins that they'd never even seen before. If they're adapting this fast, then in 15 years, we won't be able to use poisons to kill them at all. They can also hold their breath for 30 minutes and survive temperatures of minus 100 degrees Celsius, so there's nowhere they can't thrive as a species. These things are absolute freaks of nature, which is why we need to think further outside the box and use their own evolution against them. Since they already have the technology to mix insect DNA with their own, then they should be able to destroy DNA as well. It just so happens that nature has a pretty good method to do this, and it's called proteopathy, which are diseases that cause proteins to fold incorrectly. This is the same thing that caused the mad cow disease panic in the 1990s, and it's the perfect weapon to use against these cockroaches. The disease works when a certain gene makes corrupted prion proteins, and they become infectious virus-like organisms that make lethal copies of themselves. These proteins then spread throughout the brain, causing neurodegeneration and death. The incredible thing is that this disease can be spread through transgenesis, which means different species can be affected by the same disease and can even be inherited from your parents. This is exactly the kind of evolutionary disaster we need if we want to exterminate the species. We can't fight them with brute force, but we can interrupt their reproductive cycles and corrupt their genes so that they spread hereditary diseases throughout their population. Eventually, they will all carry neurodegenerative genes encoded into their DNA, and in a few generations, they might breed themselves into extinction. Now, researchers are already successfully using gene splicing technology like CRISPR to not only remove genes, but to add new sequences into our DNA. With 500 years of this technological development, it's not hard to imagine that we would have the ability to hack these cockroaches' genome, corrupt their PRNP gene, and give them all a savage case of artificially engineered Huntington's disease. If anyone had thought to take a step back and try to solve this cockroach problem in the lab instead of with their fists, they might have wiped them out a long time ago. The others are horrified by the crewmate's death, but that's when they notice another cockroach on the ship's window, and it starts smashing its face into the glass. This woman assures the crew that the windows are shatterproof, but suddenly she hears a crack. The creature breaks through the glass and falls into their spaceship, killing 2 of them in the process. That's now 5 down, with 10 more to go. Shokichi pulls out his serum ready to take on the insect, but the captain stops him and insists on handling this himself. Injecting the serum into his neck, the captain begins to transform into an insect, and it's much stronger than the last. His DNA was mixed with the bullet ant, which gives him the strength to lift over 100 times his own weight. Now transformed, the captain lifts the cockroach up into the air and slams it down into the floor, killing it in a single blow. Suddenly, the ship's radar goes off, alerting everyone that outside, thousands of cockroaches have surrounded the entire ship, and they won't leave without a fight. The group tries to launch the shuttle, but the takeoff system is glitching out, and there's no way to fix it. The ship is stuck on Mars, but the captain has a plan. He tells them he'll make a distraction so they can drive to the old spaceship that landed 10 years ago and bring back spare parts to fix the glitch. He explains that when the insects are killed, they produce a pheromone which attracts other roaches. This will draw them inside and clear the road to the other ship. It's the only way they can make their escape, and the crew agrees to the plan. As the insects start climbing up the ship's hull trying to break in, the crew heads to the vehicle bay where they prepare to leave. This woman tells the serial killer it's his turn to use his powers, and the man injects himself with his serum before turning into the most disgusting insect of them all. He was given the DNA of the McLeod bug, giving him the ability to shoot out gas that acts like a jet engine, and this will be key to their escape. As the doors start to open, they're horrified to see a whole army of cockroaches waiting for them on the other side. Using his power, the man spits fire out of his mouth, setting the rover flying through hundreds of mutated roaches. The plan seems to be working, but these creatures are about to make things so much worse. Okay, we're stuck on Mars with an army of cockroaches, and since we have to fix the ship before escaping, our only chance to survive is by fighting our way out. Now this is going to be a serious problem, because every time you kill a cockroach, it produces pheromones that attract more of them, and we'll be so outnumbered that they'll kill us. This means we can't brute force the situation and need to fight them with a clever strategy if we want a chance at getting back to Earth. Now, the only thing we really have to work with is our bug DNA, but when it comes to the insect kingdom, there are actually a few interesting opportunities here worth exploring. First of all, let's just address how absurd the situation is. These people are literally modifying their genetic code just so they can fight cockroaches on Mars. It's the most ridiculous thing you could ever think of, and that's why if we have to play this game, I would want to pick my own insect. If they already have this kind of technology at their disposal, they should be able to use a futuristic combination of 3D bioprinting and CRISPR technology to send DNA data of another insect to the spaceship. Now, if killing these bugs attracts more of them, we need to figure out a non-lethal way to fight them off. For this reason, I would build a team composed of a mite, an assassin bug, a dragonfly, a Darwin bark spider, and a giant silkworm moth. Because these creatures have some of the most overpowered abilities in the animal kingdom. A spider is technically not an insect, but it's reasonable to think that if they can already splice your DNA like this, then they can do it with a spider too. With that said, here's how my team would break down. First, these cockroaches are way too fast and we need to match their speed, so I would give this criminal the DNA of a mite. This insect is only 0.7 millimeters long, but pound for pound, it's the fastest land animal in the world. It can travel 322 lengths of its own body in a single second, which would be the equivalent of a human running at 2,100 kilometers per hour. That is 2 times the speed of sound, and at this scale, it would be impossible for these cockroaches to hear you coming. Next, we need to anticipate our enemy's behavior. So I would give this criminal the DNA of a dragonfly. It doesn't look special on the outside, but this bug is actually the most successful hunter of any species on Earth. They have a 95% success rate of catching their prey, and the reason for this is incredible. Dragonflies have the unique ability of being able to perfectly calculate where their prey is going to be in the future and track its trajectory to catch it. They also have an amazing 360-degree field of vision. If you apply these abilities to human scale, we would be able to anticipate the movement of every single cockroach before they strike. Now, none of this will help unless we have a way to kill these cockroaches without attracting more of them. So I would give this criminal the DNA of an assassin bug. This insect injects its prey with a toxin that paralyzes its prey in less than a second. It then fills it with an acid that melts all organic material inside the victim's body before sucking its corpse dry. It's disgusting, but this would get rid of any pheromones from the dead cockroaches, and it would let us kill these creatures without drawing more of them down on us. For the same reason, I would give this criminal the DNA of a giant silkworm moth, because it has venomous hairs covering its body. Anyone stung with their poison experiences severe internal bleeding, and it's even enough to kill a human. When you scale this ability up, this venom would become so powerful we could literally walk through a crowd of cockroaches and kill them with just a single touch. Lastly, we need a way to limit our enemy's movement, so I would give this criminal the DNA of a Darwin's bark spider. This thing can shoot out strands of silk as far as 25 meters, and its web is the strongest biological material ever studied. Pound for pound, dragline silk has a tensile strength stronger than steel, and when this ability is scaled up, you would have the power to shoot Kevlar-strength web strings several kilometers away. Now, when you put all these abilities together, it creates a super team death lineup of unbeatable insects. The mite can take the dragline silk and run around the roaches at twice the speed of sound, wrapping them up with indestructible material so the others can finish them off. The silkworm can act like a living meat shield at the front of the pack, killing anything that it makes contact with, while the assassin bug covers her tracks by sucking out all the pheromones from the dead cockroaches. Above them, the dragonfly acts as the sniper, protecting the group by calculating the future movements of any threat and taking them out. As they drive towards the old ship, the crew look out the window to find a massive tsunami of cockroaches coming their way. The serial killer on the roof won't survive if they go through it, but this woman knows her bug can help them survive. She was given the DNA of a black weevil, which is so strong it can withstand the pressure of being stepped on by an elephant. The woman injects herself with the serum and starts to transform, while her friend decides to join her in the fight. Her insect is the rainbow stag beetle, which uses active camouflage to confuse its enemies. Together, the women get onto the vehicle's rooftop and shield the serial killer as they're propelled through the tsunami of cockroaches. They manage to break through the wave of insects, but the vehicle slams into the dirt and the impact sends the crew flying off the rover. Everyone inside has been knocked unconscious, but suddenly the vehicle goes into autopilot and starts to drive away, leaving the others behind. Injured from the crash, the survivors can barely move as more cockroaches begin to surround them, and one by one, the humans get brutally exterminated. That's now 8 crewmates down, with 7 more to go. Later, Shokichi wakes up on the floor of the rover and has no idea what happened. Stepping out of the vehicle, he calls for his missing crewmates, but they soon realize that the others didn't survive. Deciding to split up, the gangsters wait outside while the others enter the ship. And this woman boots up the computer to check the flight logs, but is shocked by what she discovers. A coded message was recently transmitted back to Earth, and the group has no idea what that could be. Suddenly, they hear a gunshot nearby and run to investigate the noise. Outside, they're horrified to find the gangsters dead on the ground and they're covered in bullet holes. Turning around, they notice a group of cockroaches holding guns and realize that these things are more intelligent than they thought. That's now 10 crewmates down and only 5 more to go. Meanwhile, on the other ship, the captain is fighting off the cockroaches, but there are too many to handle. That's when he orders the crew to seal the entrance and vent all the oxygen out of the ship. It's a clever strategy, and now the roaches are trapped inside as they quickly begin to suffocate. The plan is working, but the remaining crewmates start to suffocate as well and collapse to the floor. Okay, this was a really bad idea. A normal cockroach can hold their breath for over half an hour compared to humans who can only last for 2 minutes at most. Removing all oxygen would only be a winning strategy if they had their own supply of oxygen to outlast them. Now, this actually brings up a pretty interesting question, because we know a lot about regular cockroaches, but it's not clear what traits have improved and what traits have been genetically discontinued. From an evolutionary standpoint, if you consider how an organism would need to adapt to survive on Mars, you'd realize that these cockroaches should not look like this at all. These things are shredded, but the gravity here is 1/3 as much as on Earth. If the Martian environment is already giving you a major assist, then 500 years of evolution should make you weaker because strength is not a requirement for survival here. At this point, these things are complete aliens to us, and that makes it a lot harder to figure out where their weaknesses are. It's pretty clear that we're not going to kill millions of cockroaches in a fist fight. So if it's me, I'd spend my time looking for the best way to distract them, because our best chance of survival is to get our ship fixed and leave this nightmare planet. Now, it just so happens that there's one aspect of their genome we can use against them, and that is their sense of smell and taste. Cockroaches have a combined 690 receptors dedicated to just smelling and eating. That's more than any other insect on the planet, and this is how we're going to beat them. According to Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency, the list of certified foods that are sent to Japanese astronauts in the ISS are canned mackerel, soy sauce, ramen noodles, peach-flavored jelly, and the list goes on. Even after 500 years of evolution, I'm willing to make a bet that cockroaches still love this stuff. Genetically, this is who they are, and they've been eating nothing but moss their entire lives, so with this many taste receptors in their ancestral DNA, a can of mackerel would be like crack to them. If it were me, instead of risking my life fighting these creatures, I would head straight to the kitchen and start pointing out all the food we had. Their unmatched sense of smell would take over, and it might be such an overpowering distraction to them that it might buy us time to fix the ship and take off. Back on Earth, the rich man starts to make a call, but surprisingly, a cockroach answers on the other end. These creatures can actually speak, and it reports that things are going according to plan. The rich man has a dark secret, and this special cockroach is not who you think he is. On the other ship, Shokichi finally injects himself with serum and starts to transform into the deadliest insect of them all. He was given the DNA of a giant hornet, which makes him fast enough to dodge bullets, with 2 venomous spikes growing out of his wrists. His crewmates join in and transform into their own bugs. This man is a locust with powerful legs, and the woman has transformed into a praying mantis, with razor-sharp pincers to slice apart the cockroaches. Together, the survivors are strong enough to kill every single insect nearby, but escaping is not going to be this easy. In the other spaceship, someone has refilled the air inside the bridge and walks over to the captain. It's the special cockroach, and it points a gun straight at him. The man asks who the creature is when a claw suddenly bursts out of its head. The captain stares in shock as a pair of hands rip the creature apart, revealing someone inside the corpse, and it's none other than his crewmate, Moriki. She had the DNA of a jewel wasp mixed into her genetic code, giving her the ability to inject a poison that can brainwash cockroaches and turn them into her slaves. She tells him she was attacked, but managed to use her power and take control of the mutated bug, saving her life. With the captain too injured to move, the woman shoots him to death, making that now 10 dead, with only 4 more to go. The woman grabs a cup of water and splashes it over her crewmate here, waking him up. The man was injected with the DNA of a sleeping chironomid, which has the power to enter a death-like state known as cryptobiosis, allowing him to survive the most extreme environmental conditions. Getting up, the man asks her where the egg is, and she tells him it's already been brought aboard the ship. They had a secret mission to capture a cockroach egg and take it back to the rich man. These two are working against the others this whole time and have finally accomplished their goal, but they have no idea that this body inside of the morgue is about to change everything. At the other spaceship, the crewmates hear the shuttle's engine starting, and they realize that it's about to leave them behind. The ship was never broken, and that's when this drone flies up to them. The rich man speaks through it, as he reveals that he planted 2 traitors among the crew. One of them sabotaged the ship so it wouldn't take off, and the other was sent to make sure he succeeded in their mission. He explains that the Japanese government came up with a plan to test their latest gene splicing technology and bring back an egg to understand how the cockroaches evolved. This information could give them an army of human-bug hybrids that would turn Japan into a world power forever. These criminals were never meant to return to Earth, but the government's plan is about to blow up in their faces. Inside the shuttle, the other crew members are waiting for liftoff, but they hear a sound coming from the egg and suddenly realize it's starting to hatch. The crew members nervously watch as 2 full-sized cockroaches emerge, but strangely, they both have 3 white dots on their foreheads. Transforming into her superbug, Moriki injects the roaches with her mind control poison and instructs them to obey her, but they both give her a defiant look. That's when the woman realizes something is terribly wrong. Suddenly, she jerks back in pain and looks down to find an arm lodged straight through her body, just before the cockroach rips her in half. They've already evolved to be immune to her abilities, and that's now 11 crewmates down, with only 4 more to go. The spaceship blasts off and rises up into the air, but all of a sudden, the newly evolved cockroaches start barking. The crew realizes they're calling out to the other creatures, and below on the ground, hundreds of roaches unfold their wings and begin to fly towards the ship. Together, they start to pull the rocket back towards the planet's surface, but the force makes the ship's engines explode. The sole human on board injects himself with the serum, transforming into an insect before falling into a death-like state, while the giant bugs take control of the ship. Okay, this is the scariest thing that's happened so far. These might be superpowered cockroaches, but up to this point, they've been stuck here on Mars with no way off the planet. Now, they have full control over a spaceship and they already know how to fly it. These things are a lot smarter than they look, and it's only a matter of time before they're headed for Earth, where they could quickly wipe out the entire human race. At this point, I think the smartest thing to do is call it a bust and scratch the whole experiment. Now, unfortunately, we can't just nuke them to end our problems. One of the reasons is because cockroaches have a massive genome compared to other insects, with a collection of special genes called cytochrome P450. This helps them withstand extremely poisonous chemicals, and they're 15 times more resistant to radiation as a result. They can basically detoxify themselves faster than any other creature on Earth, so the best way to kill them is to take out their food source. Now, what most people don't realize is that Mars has a dead core at its center. It's hardened and not soft like Earth's, so it has no magnetic field to protect them from the sun's harmful radiation. Without a core or a magnetic field, the planet doesn't have enough gravitational force to hold onto its own atmosphere, and if oxygen stops being produced on the planet, the entire sky would just float off into space, killing every living thing on Mars. We can build a sun shield, which is basically a space umbrella that blocks the sun's radiation and cools the surface of Mars to unlivable temperatures. This would both kill the cockroach's food source and dissipate the Martian surface at the same time. It would need to be about 1,000 kilometers in diameter, but it's a much easier task than terraforming an entire planet. Now, this strategy would obviously take a lot of time to implement, but let's face it, these criminals are screwed, and I'm not going to prioritize the lives of 4 criminals if there's an existential threat like this to the entire human race. Now, the sad thing is, if all this technology exists where we can edit genomes and manipulate evolution, travel into space, and terraform planets, then we should definitely have the technology to fix our own problems on Earth. The best thing to do now is protect their own home in the universe by killing the entire planet of roaches and move along. The ship falls out of the sky and smashes into the Martian surface. As the cockroaches fly back to the ground, they move in towards the last survivors, surrounding them for one last fight. Shokichi tells his crewmates their only way back to Earth is to use the escape pod, but they'll have to kill this army of bugs first. Determined to survive, they all inject themselves a serum and transform into insects as they begin fighting off the creatures. But these bugs still have one last trick up their sleeve. The newly evolved cockroaches step in to join the fight, and the survivors are quickly pushed back. They realize these things are not only faster, but they fight just like humans do. The woman tries to take one of them by surprise, but it grabs her claw at the last second and uses it to chop off her head. That's now 12 crewmates down and only 3 to go. Even with their powers, the humans are outmatched, but there's still one last hope. Grabbing their vials, they inject themselves with another dose of serum, and their abilities grow even stronger. The 2 men go on a rampage, slaughtering the cockroach army, and the strategy is working. But when Shokichi runs in to attack the newly evolved roaches, it's still too fast for him to hit. Desperate, his friend injects himself with the rest of his serum, but this one move is going to cost him his life. Refusing to quit, he manages to take down the roach commander in a single blow, but his body starts to shut down and he collapses, unable to continue. There's only one crewmate left standing to fight against the horde, but he's reaching his limit. This cockroach walks up to finish him off when it suddenly stops. Looking up, Shokichi notices a glowing figure flying in the distance, and as it comes closer, he realizes it's his girlfriend. She's come back to life and transformed into a moth. The roaches watch in confusion as she flies over them, spreading a glittering dust. That's when this guy realizes this dust is flammable, and the woman is going to blow herself up to destroy the insects. One of the creatures grabs a gun and points it at her, but that was its biggest mistake. The man suddenly sprouts wings and desperately flies towards his girlfriend, trying to stop her from sacrificing herself. But before he can reach her, the cockroach fires its gun, causing a massive explosion. The other crewmate manages to reach his friend in time and drags him away from the moth, who falls into the flames. Escaping the explosion, their serums finally run out of strength and the two men fall out of the sky. When Chokichi wakes up on the ground, his friend is nowhere in sight, but he hears strange sounds coming from nearby. Going to check it out, he discovers the man has fully transformed into an insect. It's a side effect of overusing the serum, and with his dying words, he tells his friend to make it back to Earth. That's now 13 crewmates down, with only 2 more to go. Walking back onto the spaceship, he climbs up a ladder to the second floor and comes face to face with the last surviving crewmate. Realizing he was the traitor, the man runs in to take him down, but the guy suddenly fires his pistol. Instead of shooting Chokichi, he kills a cockroach that was sneaking up on him, saving his life. The traitor tells the man they have to get to the escape pod if they want to survive, and he agrees to go with them. Together, they blast off and leave the cockroaches behind on Mars, who stare into the sky watching the men return home. Meanwhile, the rich man finds out that footage from the secret mission is being broadcasted worldwide, and he'll have to cut his losses, realizing the only good bug is a dead bug.
But what do you think? How would you beat terraformers? Let me know with a comment down below, and please check out Team Seeds. It's the biggest and most impactful cleaning project of all time, and with every dollar you donate, 1 pound of trash is cleaned up. Until next time, have a damn good day.